Good morning, everyone. Welcome to IIBS IS Academy. I'm Ashok, Master's graduate from IIT Kharagpur. I'm working as an assistant professor in IIBS IS Academy. I have been training UPSC aspirants since the past 6 years, and I'm also an author. I have written books for science and technology and environment and ecology for UPSC Civil Services examination. The topic we're going to discuss today is anti defection law. So, the very first question is why it has been come in the news? Why anti-defection law? We have to study now. So the Calcutta State Court has given the West Bengal Assembly Speaker a deadline to pass an order on the defection case. Right? The High Court has actually given a deadline to the Speaker on a defection case. So first thing we have to understand what is defection and why the High Court has directed the Speaker giving him a deadline on the judgment. First, defection may be defined as a practice of floor crossing by a member of one political outfit to another. That means if a person A, you have voted him for political party 1, right? And there's another political party 2, and immediately after electing, immediate after he getting a seat in the assembly or in the parliament, right? Or in the Lok Sabha, so what he does, instead of giving his membership to this political party on which he has won, he will be moving to another political party. We call it defection. So most of the people will be voting the representative based upon the political party. So if a person has won with the identity of political party 1 and immediately after winning, if he is shifting to the political party 2, we call it defection. That is what we call the floor crossing, right? For floor crossing by a member of one political party outfit to another, right? So it is commonly called as horse trading, commonly referred as horse trading, commonly referred as horse trading. Now, just on the lighter note, so all the defection cases will be sent to the speaker, and the speaker is the ultimate authority. Speaker is the ultimate authority to take the decision whether the person will stand defected or not. And in the anti-defection law, there is no mention of the time frame. So most of the time what happens is the corruption happens over there. That means if a person A is moving into political party 2, which is the ruling party, so the speaker doesn't speak anything against the defection. He doesn't speak anything about the defection, and he won't even give the judgment whether the person is defected or not, because once the judgment is given, the court, the high courts or the supreme court can intervene and can see whether the judgment is in 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 a proper manner or not. So if the judgment is not given, the court cannot interfere in that issue, because it is whatever the proceedings that are happening within the parliament or in the assemblies, so there won't be any judicial surveillance on that. So that's why the court cannot interfere, but only after the judgment is given the court can interfere. So what usually happens is they delay the process of defection. They delay the process of defection, and the person stays in the assembly without losing his seat, right? So that's why the Kolkata High Court has given the directions to the speaker about the deadline. It has given the deadline that you have to pass an order within the time frame, and after the order has been passed, if it is in violation to the anti-defection law, if it is in violation to the constitutional principles, then the court can interfere and it can remove the person in the office. So what is the primary intent of the law? So what are the reasons why this law has been come into the force? The very first reason is to curb the political corruption. The political corruption is the highest level of corruption. If the political corruption is removed, so all the lower strata can be easily cleansed. And the next one is to strengthen the democracy by bringing stability to the politics. So what is happening because of the defection? What is actually happening with the defection? So if a government is forming the coalition government, that means if the government, the majority government doesn't have the clean majority, so it will be taking the support of the other political parties. So because of the defection, because the people belonging or the representatives belonging to one political party are moving into the another, so what happens, the no confidence motion cannot actually sustain, no confidence motion cannot actually sustain, and the ruling party will have to vacate the seat, and again the elections has to be conducted. So because of the defection, there is no stable government for 5 years. So what happens, for every 2 3 years the election changes. The to conduct the elections again, the expenditure will increase, and also we cannot bring the stable policies to the people. So because of this, to strengthen the democracy by bringing the stability to the politics, we want anti-defection law, and to make members of the parliament more responsible and loyal. So the person belonging to a political party so must be loyal and more responsible to the political party, because it is the symbol by which he is winning. So that is the these are the three main reasons. And also the Chavan committee has suggested that a member who changes party allegiance for monetary benefit or other forms of greed, such as the promise of the executive office, should not only be removed from the parliament but also barred from contesting the elections for a specific time frame. That means, so they have to be barred from the office for about the next 10 years, or 20 years or 15 years. So they have to be barred from contesting in the elections, right? So that is what the Chavan committee has conducted. But as of now, there is no such rule that they are barred from participating in the elections, but so they will be removed from the office for the tenure. And about the anti-defection law, right? So with the constitutional amendment, with the 52nd constitutional amendment, anti-defection law was brought into force with addition of 10th schedule, right? With the addition of 10th schedule and 52nd constitutional amendment. So what does this 10th schedule contains? It contains the provisions with respect to the disqualification of the members of the parliament and state legislature. So members of the parliament as well as the state legislature, right? So on what grounds a person or the representative can be disqualified, right? So the first one, he voluntarily gives up his membership of the political party. That means he has won with the political party and he doesn't want to he doesn't want to be the part of that political party. So what does he do? He'll just voluntarily resign from the political party, and by default he'll be disqualified from the member of the house, disqualified as the member of the house. So once he voluntarily gives up the membership of the political party, by default he'll be disqualified from the seat. And the next one, he votes or abstains from voting in such house contrary to the decision issued by the political party. If a political party is actually giving a decision, and all the party members are bound to that decision, right? So if he votes or abstains from voting despite the political party's direction, so he stands disqualified. And the next one, so these are the two cases of independent members and the nominated members. So when it comes to the independent member, the house becomes disqualified to remain in the member if he joins any political party after the elections, right? So independent member is a member who doesn't belong to any of the political parties. So if he is joining any political party after the election, then he stands disqualified. He can join before but not after. And nominated member, so for a nominated member who is being nominated by the governor or the president, right? So immediately after nomination he has a grace period of 6 months, and within the 6 months he has to be a part of one political party or the other, or else he'll become independent, right? So nominated members who wants to join the political party after 6 months has to face the defection law, anti-defection law, right? So these are the four areas where an individual can be disqualified, or the people's representative can be disqualified, or as we speak, the members of the parliament and the members of the state legislature can be disqualified because of the defection, right? What are the exceptions for this? There are a few exceptions for this. We'll see what those exceptions are. The legislators may change the political party without the risk of disqualification. You can change the political party without any disqualification. You can be the member of the state legislature or the central legislature even after you change the political party, provided when at least two-thirds of the legislature are in the favor of merger. That means the political party is merging with the another political party too, right? That means one political party's two-third members are actually trying to merge into political party two, right? Then all the political party will be merged. So in that, so they, all the people belonging to the political party two, and there won't be any political party one. There won't be any political party one, only political party two. So that is the merger. So during the merging, about two-thirds of the legislature, if they want to merge to the another political party, there is no disqualification. And next, if the person is elected as a speaker of Lok Sabha or the chairman of Rajya Sabha, then he could resign from his party and rejoin the party once he demits that post. That means the person who is elected as the speaker of Lok Sabha or the chairman of Rajya Sabha, so he could resign from the party, right? Because so the speakers of the Lok Sabha and the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, they have to, there should not be any biased decision. So he should not belong to any of the political parties. So he can resign, right? He can resign from the political party, and once he moves from that particular seat, again he can join the political party. The speakers and the chairmen of the Rajya Sabha will not be disqualified upon the resignation from the party. Upon the resignation from the party. And it must be noted that the provision of the 10th schedule pertaining to the exemption of disqualification in the case of split by one-third members have been deleted. So there is one other provision which was there previously, which was not there now, right? If one-third of the political party members belonging to political party 1 are trying to move and form new political party, right? So they are exempted from disqualification. That provision is removed now, right? That provision is removed now. There is only merger, right? There is no split. And the deciding authority, who is the deciding authority for this? The discretion is upon the presiding officer of the house, right? Either the speaker or the chairman, right? They are the presiding officer of the house, and they decide whether the defection has to be done, the anti-defection law has to be proceeded with or not with the case, right? And rule making power when it comes to the defection or when it comes to the provisions of the schedule 10 or with the presiding officer. Again, the presiding officer of the house is empowered to make the rules to give effect to the provisions of the 10th schedule, right? And what is the need of anti-defection law? What is the need for anti-defection law? The very first thing is the political stability, as we said. So if all the political party, the members of the state legislature and the central legislature are moving from one political party to another, right? If they are jumping just like that, so the political structure cannot be stabilized. We do not know when the political party will actually come down, which actually increases the corruption, right? Because if you want to keep the members of your political party together, you have to maybe bribe them or give some money or give some extra things, or so that might actually increase the corruption because you are afraid all the time whether the government will actually sustain or not. And the next one, to ensure the smooth functioning of the parliamentary system. The next one is for the smooth functioning of the parliamentary system, we need anti-defection law, because if the political party, if the members of the political party are fighting among themselves, there is no smooth functioning of the parliamentary system. And next one, ensuring loyalty of the members. So to make sure the loyalty of the members exists, so that the party doesn't fear the people moving from one political party to the another political party. So we need the anti-defection law and uphold the will of the people, because the people have voted the representative based upon the symbol of the political party as well, right? Not just by seeing the person. So that's why it upholds the will of the people. And the democratic realignment of the parties in the legislature by the way of merger of the parties. So the next one, the one of the other advantages is that by the merger we can go for the democratic realignment. Democratic realignment of the political parties can be done with the anti-defection law. That means one political party can merge with another political party. Issues with the anti-defection law. It restricts the freedom of speech expression of the legislature, as we have seen. If the members of parliament or members of legislative, the state legislature either votes or abstains from voting against the party's direction, so they will be defected, they will be, they are called to be defected, and again the provisions of the law will be enforced upon them and they will be disqualified. So technically you are saying whatever the law the political party sends into the state legislature or the central legislature, all the political party members, despite the disadvantages of the despite the disadvantages of the bill, so you have to accept it. So that is clearly the restriction of the freedom of speech and expression of the legislatures, right? And it restricts the legislature's freedom to oppose any acts, policies, and leaders or bills of the political party. So whatever the bill that has been introduced, you have no right to say anything against the bills or any acts. And it reduces the accountability of the elected representatives. It reduces the accountability of the elected representative, because so your interests depending upon your constituency might be different from the other constituency. So your representative or your people's representative has to represent your own interests rather than the party's interests as a whole, right? So it reduces accountability and elected representatives. And by curbing dissent, it further undermines the executive accountability of the legislature. So as we know, the executive as well as the legislature are one and the same, but the executive has to implement the laws in a just way, where the legislature is to make the laws. So being not able to dissent, right, as an executive, right, undermines this accountability to the legislature and undermines the representative government. As we have already discussed, the legislature feel compelled to toe party lines, even if that does not represent the will of their constituencies. So even if your constituency have other interests, so the legislators cannot act against the political party because of this anti-defection law, right? So that undermines representative government. There is no point of you, there is no point of a person representing your people or your own interest. There is no such thing called your own interest. It is the party interest as a whole. And what are the issues with the current law, right, with the current anti-defection law of India? So the very first thing is there is no liability for the political parties. That means, so we are making sure the members of the party or political party are liable, but we haven't made any provisions, because the political party will be having the greater advantage of the people moving from one more political party to the other political party. So obviously we have to make the political parties liable as well, not just disqualifying the member. And the next one, the problem with the merger provision, right? So it is only talking about the numbers rather than the reason why they are merging. So it is telling 2/3 of the member, so whatever the reason that may be, so if you want to merge with the other political party, you are free to do so, right? So even if the reason is unjust, so the merger will still happen. So there is a problem with the merger provision. And the next one is power to the presiding officer. So absolute powers were given to the presiding officer. So that is a clear disadvantage, because so if the presiding officer is initially belonging to a political party, even though he resigns, he might be slightly aligned to one political party or the other. So because of that, the giving absolute powers on the anti-defection law to the speaker, so might not really speak the interests of the people as a whole, right? So what can be done? We can give this issue to the speaker or the president. So defection bills can be sent to the speaker, the governor or the president to decide upon. And unable to curb instability, right? Even though we have the anti-defection law, we are not able to curb the instability of the governments, right? And the next one, expulsion does not attract disqualification. So if you are voluntarily removing any member from your political party, so that does not account to disqualification. That does not account to disqualification. He will still be the member of parliament or state legislature. And so what can be done to overcome these issues? We have discussed the issues. So what can be done now to address these issues? The very first thing, we have to narrow down the definition of defection, right? We have to modify what defection means, the understanding of defection, what is the basic fundamental aspects of defection, that we have to narrow it down. So how the definition has to be made in such a way that defining actions or conduct which constitutes defection in a manner that does not inhibit them to independently think and express their opinions. That means we are telling that, so if the member of parliament or the state legislature votes or abstains from voting, so they can be disqualified. That means, so we are acting against the right to speech and expression. So what we are narrowing the definition in such a way that, so any defying action by the member, if it does not violate right to speech, right, so to independently think and express their opinions, right, so those all things will be ruled under anti-defection law, right. So if they are just giving their voice, if they are just giving their dissent, right, so we cannot disqualify them. This ensures that dissent among the members does not necessarily translate to instability or disagreement. So there is a clear separation between the dissent and disagreement, right, dissent and disagreement. So there has to be clear demarcation. The dissent has to be tolerated where but not disagreement, so that has to be given the voice. And several experts have suggested that the law must be valid only for those votes that determine the stability of the government. So many people said that, so only in the case of no confidence motion, only during the case of no confidence motion and during the passage of annual budget, because they determine the stability of the government, only in those circumstances we have to make sure the anti-defection law is come into the force. The rest of the cases, when the bill is being introduced, so even the members belonging to the political party should be able to address the problems in that bill, not just supporting it just because the party is introducing it. And involvement of the ethics committee. So in the parliamentary proceeding and the state assembly proceedings, we have the ethics committee, right. So we need to make sure the ethics committee is involved in the defection related issues, so that can curb cash or the query scam. So cash scam is nothing but giving money to the person to move from the political party, and the query scam is nothing but giving money to a person belonging to a political party to raise questions against the government, to raise questions against the political party. So in that way, the cash query incident or the query scam, as we say, cash scam, right, cash and query scam, right. So these can be addressed by involvement of the ethics committee. And deciding authority. So when it comes to the deciding authority, we know we have given absolute power to the speaker or the presiding officer. So the second Administrative Reforms Commission has actually suggested that the defection should be decided by either by the president or the governor on the advice of election commission, not just by a speaker, right. In that way the just can be done. And we need to bring more clarity to the words of voluntarily giving up the membership. So we do not have a clear description, or so in what cases the voluntary giving up membership, what does that mean, right. So there has to bring more clarity on this particular thing. So in this way we can address the issues. So this is about anti-defection law. If you have any queries, please put down in the comments below. Please do like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you.